What is up, everybody? It's June 10th, 2026, and we're covering the IRGC and the U.S. Navy at war with each other right now in the Strait of Hormuz. It's happening as we speak, and all of this news came today after Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, essentially, they both gave statements saying that this was going to happen, and all of because this Apache helicopter that was struck yesterday by the IRGC, essentially. That's what they say. But again, this ceasefire keeps going on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off. And we're supposed to believe that it's just going to end and that the markets are going to stay the way they are. But ultimately, it's been Trump's statements that have been keeping the market pretty much at bay right now, the oil markets and everything. And Trump also made a statement today that essentially we've been taking the Iranians' oil all this time, and that's why inflation is so high. So who knows? What do you think, though? And we're going to look through it. We're going to look at all of it. And we're going to investigate everything else that that's going on. The Iran war, of course. We're going to be looking into the Israel siege on Lebanon, and we're also going to be looking into the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as all of the other trending news today in the media. So be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe if you like this information. And without further ado, let's get started. So again, this was a big story. Ultimately, when we look at everything that's going on, it's pretty crazy. Okay, this war is not ending anytime soon. And ultimately, we have to remember that with everything going on, it's pretty wild. So let's take a look at everything that's trending right now in the media.
Retaliatory attacks on Iran.
Officials to restart negotiations, John.
Well, we'll see if they have any luck with that.
There we go.
Retaliatory attacks on Iran is underway right now. We are told they began about 45 minutes ago. Earlier in the day, President Trump said the United States hit Iran hard yesterday and would hit it hard again today in response to the downing of a U.S. Army helicopter. This comes as the president reveals new information about what he calls a secret mission in the region. We've got Fox team coverage tonight. Aisha Husseini at the White House has more of what the president said today. We begin, though, with our chief national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, and details on tonight's strikes. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, John. We've just learned that at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, the U.S. Central Command began carrying out airstrikes against Iranian targets. We've heard of explosions occurring at ports along the Strait of Hormuz and along the Iranian coast. We've heard that Kish Island has been hit, Keshem Island, as well as sites in western Tehran. Earlier today, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth visited Guantanamo Bay in Cuba and then flew to Tampa, Florida to CENTCOM headquarters, where he was briefed on Iranian target lists by Admiral Brad Cooper. Hegseth spoke to reporters traveling with him and announced the U.S. military would be bombing Iranian targets tonight.
Those strikes that'll happen tonight will be strong. They will be clear. If they happen tomorrow night, they will be strong and they will be clear. Central Command will be busy tonight because President Trump said we will be hitting Iran hard, and we will be. If we need to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate with bombs.
Hegseth then indicated
that
during the ceasefire,
it's just so genius,
had
right?
been busy mapping new targets and also tracking the movements of Iran's leaders. He also claimed the U.S. actually controls the Strait of Hormuz after the president revealed that the U.S. military had secretly been escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, laden with over 100 million barrels of oil in the middle of the night without Iran seeing them. Overnight, Iran fired dozens of missiles and drones in response to the U.S. strikes on 20 targets last night after an Iranian drone forced down an American Apache helicopter with 2 crew members on board. President Trump said it was a miracle they survived.
And it's also important to note that, again, the Iranians did not claim responsibility for striking down that Apache. They said it might have been an accident, whatever, maybe it was the Iranians. But the point is, over an Apache helicopter, this was the precursor to get us back into the war and to end the entire ceasefire.
Said an Iranian projectile lodged between the 2 pilots of the Apache and was on fire, emitting a massive amount of heat, but did not explode within seconds. The helicopter pilots brought the helicopter down into the water quickly. They didn't know if it would explode or not. Qatari negotiators were in Tehran today to try to convince Iranian officials to restart negotiations, John.
So again, that's just one little clip. We have way more clips to be looking over. Okay, honestly, it's pretty wild when we see everything that's going on with all of it. Okay, so let's take a look at this clip right here. Again, this is one more Fox News clip I wanted to play because it actually covers a little bit of the maps and the geographical outlook of what's really going on.
We've just confirmed with U.S. officials that airstrikes have begun against Iranian targets. Iranian state media.
So again, these strikes have struck Bandar Abbas, Qasem Island, Strait of Hormuz, Sirk, and Jask. Okay, and the Strait of Hormuz here, this is where the entire, again, this blockade right where my cursor is typically what we have been looking at over the past few weeks right here that you're seeing on the map. Just near Fujairah, you're seeing a lot of this blockade over here. But that's been causing this, essentially this entire delay of flow through traffic. So there's no real ability to actually, complete trade. And at the same time, now the Iranians want to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is on the other side, which is where essentially the Red Sea. And so when we look at all of this, this is all of the strikes that have taken place.
Is reporting that those strikes are being carried out on Qasem Island. We heard those strikes yesterday at about this time. The same sort of airstrikes began. Qasem Island, Manab, Sirik. These are all port and coastal areas where the U.S. it was taking out air defenses and radar systems just yesterday. Right now, we can say that Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, was down at CENTCOM headquarters where he was being briefed by Admiral Brad Cooper this afternoon about potential targets. Earlier in the day, the president indicated and telegraphed that the airstrikes were likely to begin again tonight. Secretary Hegseth.
And those are happening as we speak during the stream right now.
That in fact the U.S. is willing to negotiate with bombs if need be, and shortly thereafter the airstrikes began. We can expect to see, I think, over the next few hours, a number of new targets hit inside Iran.
Again, so that's just a little bit of an outlook of the map of really where this war is going, kind of what's happening with that. Okay, so again, here's statements from Trump. This was at 12 o'clock p.m. today. Rapid Response 47 posted this on X.
With Iran for a number of months, and they should sign their deal. It's a good deal. It doesn't give them the right to have a nuclear weapon. In fact, it totally prohibits them from ever having a nuclear weapon. And it was just tap, tap, tap. I don't know what they're doing. So they then shot at our helicopter, very expensive helicopter, by the way, but much more importantly, the two men, fortunately, they're okay. But an amazing rescue. If you ever get a clip, you won't believe the rescue, how cool it was. The equipment we have. Look, we have the strongest military in the world. And I gave them a break.
Yeah, not for long if we keep getting into these unstrategic wars that we can't win. Iran is an army of 90, or they're a country of 90 million people, and they have a pretty solid military, honestly. And they've been underestimated for a long time by the U.S. government. They've been trying to do this war for 20 years. And really, Netanyahu has been trying to do it since 1967. And so this rhetoric is exactly the same. Iran is going to have a nuclear weapon. But here we are. We are fighting Iran, and at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer. And it's not going so well because we can't seem to win. But we're going to cover all of it tonight.
The request of Pakistan, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister of Pakistan are great. We stopped them from going to war with India. You would have had a nuclear war if it wasn't for me. But they became friendly to me, very friendly, and they're close to Iran, and they work, and they still are working on trying them to do what's right. But we want a deal that's meaningful. We want a deal that works. We don't want to just have a Barack Hussein Obama deal, JCPOA, the worst deal. That was a path to a nuclear. It's the exact opposite. I like on television, they say, oh, they should have kept that deal. First of all, it was over. It was a short-term deal. But that deal was a path to a nuclear weapon. This is a path against a nuclear. You can't have a nuclear weapon. His was a path to a nuclear weapon. They were developing.
But Israel can have 90 to 200 nuclear warheads and never tell us about it and sell our nuclear secrets and nuclear codes to our enemies, right? That Israel could merge with the United States military via H.R. 8800, the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2027, subsection 22 and 222 and 224, and then we're not allowed to worry about that. But Iran's the problem. Okay, got it, Trump.
During his administration, nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, there'd be no Israel, there'd be no Middle East, and they would have
there it is. So this is for Israel.
Absolutely shot at us. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And
your television set. In case you don't turn on your television set.
We'll see what happens with the deal. We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers because you know what? They dealt with some very stupid presidents. I have to say that. I'm embarrassed to say
that's not
some
untrue.
Very stupid people.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's not going so hot. At the same time, this was also an extremely important sentence that Trump had to say here. He talks about oil and how we are basically able to extract all of this oil from Iran without them even knowing it because they don't really have radar in certain areas of the Persian Gulf and around that central focus of where we're trying to, really take this oil. And the reason this is so important is because this seems to be the priority versus getting out of the war. It's oil, the petrodollar, and that's what this is all about.
Right people come into our country.
Are you going to go to any games?
I will.
I will. Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers were great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over.
He said, I love the inflation. A lot of people didn't like that. But then he tries to justify it with an economic purpose.
I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran until right now. We took
why would
out
we tell them that?
22 ships.
Like, why would you tell them that anyways? Like, why would you reveal that information? Like, honestly, if we were really doing that, then why are we telling that to the media? Why are we telling that to them? Why don't we just keep doing it? But no, we told them. Now they know. We shouldn't have said anything, personally.
With no lights, because they don't have any radar, because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel.
Not anymore.
I mean, you take a look. Remember when I did this, I said, look, the one bad thing will be, we hit the best economy we've ever hit. And I said to my people, I had Scott, I had Howard, I had Pete, I had all of them. I had Todd in the room. I said, the one thing we have to do now, we had just hit the highest stock market in history, highest 401ks in history. Everything was going well. And I said, I hate to do this to you guys, but Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon very soon. We have to go and attack. So we hit them with the B-2 bombers.
Yeah, Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon, we think. So let's hit them with the B-2 bomber. That's the logic. That's the logic, right? And it's just a little crazy. It's a little crazy the way we're kind of doing a lot of this. Honestly, insane. So again, here's some more footage. First footage of the IRGC fighter jets thundering over Tehran, Mir. So again, this is kind of what we were looking at. This has been going viral over the past couple hours here. So this is what we're dealing with. The Iranians are ready. They're not surrendering anytime soon. This is Senator Kennedy.
I'll give you one person's opinion. We have accomplished in Iran what we set out to do. Why did we go in? Our intelligence, our spies said Iran is manufacturing in a massive amount conventional weapons, drones, missiles, launchers, so they can turn to Israel and America and say, we're about to restart our weapons program, nuclear warhead program, and if you bomb us again, as you did last June, you can do it, but we'll destroy the Middle East. And by the way, our missiles
That's not what
can
they
reach
said.
Berlin and Paris and London. President Trump couldn't allow that to happen. He went in, he stopped that.
So again, the Iranians never said they were going to destroy the Middle East. And at the end of the day, again, who has 90 to 200 nuclear warheads? That's Israel. And we're not allowed to know about that. Jonathan Pollard sold our nuclear codes to the Russians and several other of our enemies, of whom we don't even know about. We have a real problem with the state of Israel and not knowing more about their nuclear program. And by the way, all of the information and all of the attention right now is on this entire Iran war, when really, you know, we ought to be focused on what's going on with Israel. Listen to this clip.
מכובדיי, המזרח התיכון משתנה בימים אלו ממש
So let me translate. We'll rewind this.
בגאווה רבה את לוחמינו הגיבורים. המזרח התיכון, מכובדיי, המזרח התיכון.
What a mess. Everything's a little laggy right now. So when we look at this, again, Israel Defense Minister warns Iran for the improvement of the north and the state of Israel, and report on Asaf Atayomi. This is Shenzion trying to negotiate. We must not think that craft is over. The war is over. Tilmorian spread is far from over. If Iran attacks Israel, she will absorb a mystery, as we did a few days ago. Long statute to attack with great power to Iran. So again, this is all a threat to Iran. And meanwhile, we're supposed to be focusing on this entire war. Maybe we're a little bit distracted and deprioritized on the most important things, which is our own country, our own economy. Because right now, again, this Iranian war is a war of attrition. Keeps us going. And we keep getting into this war, but it's not really benefiting us in any way, right? When we look at all of this, it's important to realize that, you know, when you see this, you have to pay attention to just how dangerous this is actually getting, okay? So ultimately, when we look at all of it, got to be careful, okay? So again, this was U.S. Central Command. U.S. Central Command forces began launching additional self-defense strikes today at 5:15 p.m. Eastern against multiple targets in Iran at the commander-in-chief's direction. The strikes are in response to Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. So, insane. Iranian media reports that at this moment, clashes are taking place between the IRGC forces and American forces in the Strait of Hormuz. So again, the video here was made with Grok AI, just for cinematic effect here. But again, that's all true. We are in a war right now with the IRGC in the Strait of Hormuz near Qasem Island, basically in that entire vicinity, in that entire area. So when we look at that, pretty wild. This is just 6:05. This was posted, so not too long ago. So again, when we look at all of this, again, the Houthis now warn that the continued U.S. strikes on Iran could trigger a wider regional war, disrupt global trade and energy markets, and further destabilize the world economy. AKA, they will try to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. 10% of global trade passes there. So again, important to pay attention to all of this, because again, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is on the southwest region of Saudi Arabia, or Yemen, you could call it. And so when we look at that, again, a lot of trade goes through that little route. We've been watching this route over on maritime traffic and tracking everything that's going on with that. And we're going to be looking at that a little bit more soon here. So again, this is the entire Department of War speech from Pete Hegseth himself. And again, we're going to watch the entire thing because it's important. This is everything that was said earlier today at 4:38 p.m. This was released by the Department of War. And so let's take a listen to what Pete Hegseth had to say here.
And that's not because we want to restart anything we don't have to restart. It's because the War Department is prepared to set the terms to ensure that we get the kind of deal President Trump expects. And Admiral Cooper and the team here at CENTCOM has done a phenomenal job from the beginning on Epic Fury and through this blockade, ensuring that we have a chance to reach that end state, which is Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, which they say they don't want. And so since we're so close to that negotiated deal, if that's the case, they should step up and do it. There's another thing that was revealed today by the president that the press has not been aware of, but certainly this building, the U.S. Central Command, has known, is that Project Freedom, the idea of running ships through the Strait of Hormuz, it never stopped. It just went underground. And so there's some things the public knows and some things the public doesn't know. But ultimately, we've been protecting commercial shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz, as the president announced, to the tune of over 100 million barrels that have moved through and more in the middle of the night, protected by the United States in a way that Iran can't stop. Now, they can't see it and they can't stop it. So answer me this. If our blockade is ironclad, which it is, we just disabled another tanker attempting to leave just yesterday. Our blockade has stopped almost 140 ships attempting to navigate in or out to Iranian ports. So if our blockade is ironclad, which it is, and we're able to move commercial shipping in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, who controls the Strait of Hormuz? And President Trump said it, and he's right. The United States of America controls the Strait of Hormuz. We're able to bring oil in and out and other things with partners, and have done so now for weeks and weeks in ways the Iranians don't want to acknowledge. That's a powerful reality on the ground. Add that to what the United States military, what Central Command did to their Navy, to their Air Force, to their air defenses, to their power projection capabilities, and we know exactly on this ledger who's on the strong end and who is not, who's had decisive effects and who can't defend. And so from the beginning, we've shown overwhelmingly the kind of capabilities the War Department can bring. This building continues to plan. And so those strikes that will happen tonight will be strong. They will be clear. If they happen to happen tomorrow night, they will be strong and they will be clear. And throughout, Iran has an opportunity to make a deal. That's the point. President Trump is a deal maker, the best in the world. He's prepared to make that deal. Iran would be wise to take it. Otherwise, they would have to deal with the types of plans that I just had a chance to see inside Central Command. And I'll end with this. I had a chance to thank the thousands of incredible Americans here at the headquarters that represent the tens of thousands out in theater, just the absolute best, dedicated to the success of this mission. Whether it was Epic Fury or the blockade and the ceasefire and the things that have happened underneath it, to give the president all the space he needs to make a great deal. They're enthusiastic about this historic mission. They're enthusiastic about the incredible results that CENTCOM has shown, and the media wants to spin it. They always want to make America look bad. They always want to make the president look bad and make it look like he hasn't accomplished incredible things. What CENTCOM has done here has been historic. And the military objectives that they've achieved have reset the table in this region and set the table for the kind of movement through the Strait of Hormuz based on U.S. control that changes the whole game. We know how much pressure Iran is under. It's clear. We see it. We read it.
But Iran was never under pressure earlier because the United States was already controlling the Strait of Hormuz. We already had control over the Strait of Hormuz, and then we gave it up. Now we have to fight for it again, and now we're losing any kind of alliance we had with the Iranians and any kind of real civility we had because of, on behalf of, the state of Israel. This is for them. And even Trump just said it in the clip we just watched like 10 minutes ago.
We understand it, and so do they. And they would be wise to make only the kind of deal that President Trump would accept, which is a great deal. I'll take a few questions.
Mr. Secretary, 2 questions on Iran. With this latest response from Iran last night, have they not clearly violated the ceasefire? Have you underestimated Iran's military resolve? Like, why do you keep going back to trying to hit the same targets? And furthermore, you just mentioned...
Who said we were going back to hit the same target?
Haven't you been targeting...
Most of their shots, by the way, missed and were shot down by us. So their efficacy and their ability to actually strike is incredibly diminished. And thankfully so, our air defenders are incredible, and the capabilities we have are incredible. No one said anything about restriking, and we're hitting additional targets. You resurface them when you have to, but ultimately, we know exactly what we're hitting and why, and they can't stop us in that capacity, which means they're going to be less able to see and sense the things they want to be aware of.
And then furthermore, you just mentioned you're going to plan to hit them and strike them hard tonight. If the response is in hitting bridges, electrical infrastructure, how would that not be a war crime potentially targeting civilian infrastructure?
Well, it's precisely the kind of disingenuous question that I'm used to from the media, impugning the motives of the folks on our side who are incredibly professional and incredibly effective. We will hit them hard on our terms, on the targets that improve the environment for us to operate in and undermine the capabilities that Iran wants to have.
Notice how he didn't deny that there would be civilians struck. He just said, well, we're going to target who we need to accomplish the mission. It's like, what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a potentiality of hitting civilians. Well, what happens if civilians get hit? That means this war keeps going on and on and on, and it's going to get worse. And we potentially lose allies. And again, potentially, it looks even worse on the United States. This is not good. We need to get out of this war, strategic withdrawal, or we need to win. But ultimately, it seems like we're having a pretty hard time winning. But what do you guys think?
Again, they can't do that to us meaningfully the way that we can to them, but we're also clearly signaling to them, you have a choice. You have a choice in the way that you respond, and you have a choice with our incredible negotiating team in Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and the vice president, the president, across the board, prepared, Marco Rubio, the whole team, prepared to make a great deal.
Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, he just said. What is important about those two men? Jared Kushner is Donald Trump's son-in-law, and he is also Jewish, very interesting. And he is basically in charge, as well as Steve Witkoff. Both of them are in charge of the Abraham Accords, which is an entire real estate transaction for basically building up a new Gaza. And with this new Gaza, you're going to see a lot of different real estate developments, hotels, luxury kind of living. It'll be a very metropolitan area that's being built. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing in all of these areas. That's why there is this war right now. And at the same time, Israel is expanding their borders into southern Lebanon, all the way up to Nabatea. So you look at all of these different things happening, and it's like, where are we really going with this? This war is only going to continue, and it's not going on because of nothing. This is really in the incentives of the Abraham Accords, and nobody is allowed to talk about the Abraham Accords because it is the reason that Trump is continuing this war. He could have stopped it many times over now, but we keep getting these excuses, right? Oh, an Apache helicopter was shot down, so now we need to just bomb them over and over and over and over and over again until we completely dominate them, and then essentially we're going to have no access to the Strait of Hormuz if we don't succeed. And on top of that, well, they will probably also close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which again cuts off the other 10% of that oil supply. So pretty crazy.
Would benefit Iran. They choose not to, and as a result, they're going to meet the United States Central Command again tonight in the way the president laid out clearly. Yes.
So in the event that the Iranians don't come to the table and they keep playing games and they refuse to make a deal, how certain are you on our targeting ability to immediately find and finish off and execute every remaining senior leader within the Islamic Republic of Iran, in IRGC?
Well, let's just say this command has used the ceasefire wisely and with great efficiency to ensure that we are refining our intelligence and target sets in a way that are far, far beyond even the beginning of Epic Fury. And that's a part of what I had a chance to see today. So when you see the commencement of Epic Fury, if a conflict were to have to recommence, our ability to target, our ability to sense, our ability to see, our ability to get into networks has only been vastly improved over time. So, and that's certainly what the commanders relayed to me. So the historic success of Epic Fury would only be built upon, whether it's personnel, locations, capabilities, you name it. And again, remember, Iran doesn't have a defense industrial base, and what they have is extremely limited, meaning they don't have the ability right now to make more missiles or make more drones. What they have is what they have, and if they've dug it out, we'll strike it again if we need to. So we know the terms, and we've got always more capability to bring. Yeah, Phil.
Secretary, last night the U.S. hit nearly 20 targets inside Iran. Will today's strikes be bigger? And what can you tell us about the status of the wounded Apache pilots who went down yesterday?
The Apache pilots are in good shape. What they did, bringing that thing down, was incredible. It was just Class A work by the great Americans who are incredibly skilled. People don't realize, this is a contested environment. As we've noted, we're running ships through. Iran doesn't really know how to see them or how to sense them, and so they're doing well. In good spirits, and we're grateful for everything they've done to protect the shipping and our interest in the process. What was your first question?
And the strikes tonight, are they going to be bigger, more strikes than last night?
We're as you know, we're not in the business of revealing what we're going to do or not going to do, but ultimately, what we do tonight are going to advance our military interests and also enhance our diplomatic position. Because again, President Trump, he's willing to go back and fight as necessary, but has given Iran an open hand to make this deal. It's right there. They have that chance. They're choosing to play games. They're choosing to tap. If they want to tap, then
so are we.
Turn to the War Department. If we need to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate.
What are the demands of the Iranians? We want all of the sanctions taken off. We want to be able to enrich nuclear. We don't want to have nuclear weapons. They just said we want to be able to enrich nuclear weapons. We want to be able to enrich, which means they want to deter against Israel, who is constantly bombing them. Look at what Israel's doing to Lebanon. If Iran is completely defenseless, then Israel is going to do everything that they are doing to Lebanon and what they call the Gaza model to Iran. And so this is why the Iranians are saying, no, we need to have some kind of nuclear program or at least an enrichment program so we are able to defend ourselves against Israel. Because if Israel were to basically have nobody, if they were to basically be able to take over Iran the way that they're doing with Lebanon and Gaza, well, they would control essentially the entire Middle East. They would have all the trade. They would end up bringing in all of the wealth from the Strait of Hormuz, from the Red Sea. So this is heating up quick. And who knows what's going to happen? Is Israel going to go nuclear? We don't know because they don't tell us. But we know that Iran is never going to, and that is because of how hard we are hitting them on behalf of Israel. So it's something that people need to be talking about. And that's why my YouTube channel gets pretty much suppressed and nobody watches it. It's because you're not allowed to know this.
With bombs, and we're very good at it. Nobody better in the world. And again, so we're in lockstep with the White House, in lockstep with the negotiating team to make sure we set the conditions, and the targets tonight are meant to do that.
Just to follow up, I know we spent half the day at Gitmo with you. There's still currently 15 prisoners there, mostly Islamic jihadists. So given Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's detailed confessions to orchestrating 9/11 and other al-Qaeda plots, why has the United States government chosen to keep him alive and comfortable at Gitmo for decades along with these other Islamic jihadists instead of executing them and delivering justice for the 3,000 victims of 9/11 and the other service members who lost their lives in the war on terror?
Well, I appreciate the question. There's a reason we started the day down at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. in Southcom is because we want to make sure Cuba understands that the United States' capabilities are robust. It's right in our neighborhood. The Don Road Doctrine is in full effect, and we're going to be prepared to defend with all the capabilities we need there, but also everything the War Department can bring to bear. So my message was clear there. It was great to be with the Marines and others, do a little PT, see how fired up they are about their mission down there. But listen, I've written extensively about it. These Gitmo detainees should have been executed, in my mind, personally, a long time ago for the crimes of what they committed against the American people. Unfortunately, the gears of American justice got gunked up all the way back to when I was a guard at Guantanamo Bay. In 2004, 2005, I was one of the guards, one of the, exterior guards, small part, in the first attempts on these trials that were just starting. There was a lot of hope. Hey, we might be able to try these guys swiftly for the crimes they've committed against the United States of America. And then whether it's international groups or lawyers and the things on top got layered on top and all got stuck. We're committed to the death penalty in that case and in any others. We don't have any interest in
it, though, because it's been over 2 decades.
Whatever we can do, we'll do. But I share your frustration.
Also, Cuba, you mentioned earlier today about Cuba trying to procure weapons in terms of potentially for other countries and the threat that might pose. Can you expand on that?
Just a warning. Just a warning. Cuba is 90 miles away. No country should live under the threat of those kinds of capabilities across from their shores.
Like WMDs or
well, I'm not going to tell you everything about what I know. There's classifications about things we know that we don't share with the press, which is why we're careful about press credentials at the Pentagon. There's a lot of things that the American people and the public don't necessarily need to know. All I know is 90 miles away from our shores, we shouldn't be tolerating any other country putting systems there. Just think about what, we see it playing out in CENTCOM. When you have weapons that can range like that, it creates factors you have to deal with. So our message to Cuba is don't get into that game. Don't get into the game where you're threatening Americans or the American homeland because that won't go well for them.
Clearly, you must believe that there's a risk that...
I agree with that.
Well, there's always a risk. There's always a risk, right? And we're monitoring the entirety of the globe. I'm not speaking to any specific intelligence. I'm just acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of pressure on the regime in Cuba right now, and rightfully so. They have big decisions that they should make, and sometimes leaders make the wrong decision when there's pressure on them. And we would encourage them not to go in that direction, which only creates the kind of threat the United States may have to deal with. And we have all the options we need in that scenario.
How long would a U.S. military operation take to remove the communist regime in Cuba? And what would happen, per se, and how long would it take to reestablish order if President Trump were to decide to do a capture-kill operation with Miguel Diaz-Canel like he did with Maduro?
All I would say is options, options, options. Our job is to present options at different scales, depending on where the commander-in-chief of the President of the United States wants to go.
So capture and kill is still an option?
We've got options all over the map, just like we've got lots of options in CENTCOM. That's our job. Yeah. Our building literally plans for a living. So besides the Pentagon, no one plans better than United States Central Command. So to kind of bring it back home to while we're here, those options are all those options are on the table. The President expects us to be strong and resolute with the way that we respond and bring firepower, and we'll certainly do that if need be. So thank you for traveling with us today very much, and we'll strike them hard tonight, and hopefully Iran makes a good.
We'll strike them hard tonight, he says. So again, and here that is happening as we speak. It's happening right now. So again, more on this. This is from the Al Jazeera. Iran War Live. U.S. launches new attacks on multiple targets in Iran. The U.S. Military Central Command says its forces have launched additional self-defense strikes against multiple targets in Iran. Iran's President Mossad Pezeshkian earlier said the country will stand firm and denounced U.S. threats to target Iranian infrastructure. UNICEF urges accountability for Israel's killings of Palestinian children. The UN, and that's a different story. So again, when we look at all of that, pretty crazy. Again, this is everything that's happening now. And then meanwhile, a lot of people, like I said before, they want your attention on this entire Iran war, and nobody's really talking about Israel, though. And we do need to talk about Israel. Israel kills 16 in Lebanon today. UN to probe international law violations. So again, not allowed to talk about it. Why does my channel get no views? Because I talk about this, but I refuse to not talk about it because it is what's happening in the news. We need to be able to discuss these things. UN investigators to arrive in Lebanon next week to assess potential violations of international law by all parties. So again, this is just a clip on that. Loading. Might not even play. Ultimately, this is what's really going on with this entire war, though. It's pretty wild. 16 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Tyre. It's
Hezbollah sites, but locals and residential and commercial areas are being hit. 10 people have been killed so far on Wednesday, including 2 people in a drone strike on a car in Sidon. Thousands of people are fleeing the city after the Israeli army issued forced displacement orders. But are those evacuations and discontinuing?
That's open quarter specifically to Israel. Then follow that up with several strikes on those refugee camps. This as well as have also been over the last several hours intensified between Israel and all towns that are at the edge of the line. Where troops are currently occupying Lebanese territory. They've made 2 attempts over the last 48 hours to advance into Buta Sayyad and take more territory here in the south. Hezbollah says they've targeted them and stop that advance from happening. But what that's turning out to be is bad news for anybody who's here in the city of Tyre, as Israel intensifies its attacks, targeting places that are generally very heavily.
It is crazy how bad this is freezing right now.
Populated, densely populated, and resulting in a huge spike in the death toll. According to the new figures released by the Ministry of Health just minutes ago, 3,696 people killed in Lebanon, 30 of them within the past 24 hours here in the south.
Obaida, you mentioned the death toll so far, so obviously not everybody who can or wants to leave is able to do so. Talk us through the humanitarian situation then and the rescue efforts that are able to happen when these strikes occur.
Well, there's already over 1 million people displaced from their homes. Israel has demonstrated its willingness to continuously target paramedics, ambulance drivers, ambulances, medical facilities. So whenever there's a strike, even if there are Lebanese civil defense and other emergency workers rushing to the scene, they are definitely in the line of fire. The situation for people who are fleeing the south and reaching places in Sidon or north of the Zahrani River are also finding that the situation remains quite dangerous. A couple hours ago, Israel strike vehicle in the of Sidon, tens of thousands of internally displaced people have gone and stayed for many of these last several weeks as the violence has increased, thinking it was going to be safe. But what we're seeing is that Israel is increasingly targeting moving vehicles in very densely populated areas. The forced evacuation orders that were issued today are all in the Sidon province, where tens of thousands of people have gone thinking it would be safe. And anybody who's on the roads trying to get out of the south, they have to take this one road that leads from Tyre to Sidon and then north of the Zahrani River. But that trip by itself is extremely dangerous.
All right, Obaida Hito.
Yeah, so we are glitching like crazy. Of course, it doesn't want me talking about this story. And apparently, inevitably, it looks like we're going to just be freezing. So hopefully you can see the screen, Israel kills 16 in Lebanon, UN to probe international law violations. So that's the big news. You missed that entire video that I tried playing, and we've pretty much been frozen the whole time. So we'll see if it gets better after this, but we got to move on. Again, Russian offensive campaign assessment, June 9th, 2026. Again, the Kremlin is seeking to delegitimize the results of Armenia's June 8th parliamentary elections, in which Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan Civil's Contract Party won a majority of the vote. So, big news there. Ultimately, all of this is pretty wild. Okay, we also had some big news on Russia, Ukraine. Ukraine was also in effect today. Kremlin responds after Moscow car bombs kill one of Putin's army generals. So that's definitely a big story when we look at that. Pretty wild. Looks like we're still freezing. Well, I guess we're going to just end this stream because something's going on. Anyways, we're going to just move on, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Going to fix this problem. We'll do another stream tomorrow, and we'll cover all